Change comes from emotion. But here's the twist. The same thing is true at work. The same thing is true at work. Your colleagues have the same psychology at work as they have at home. If you want them to move, that starts with emotion. Well, that gets us onto uncomfortable turf. We don't think a lot about how to get our colleagues to feel something. What does that even mean? I want to tell you a story that shows us the way out here. A guy named John Stegner works at a big manufacturing firm. He works in the finance department. So far, no sign of emotion here, right? Manufacturing, finance, it gets worse. His idea is that they can save a lot of money by doing centralized purchasing. So at the time he took over, all of the factories were doing their own negotiations with vendors. It was a nightmare. Everybody was negotiating independently. He said, look, if we roll all this up, we can save a lot of money. In fact, his estimates were that they could save $1 billion over 10 years by doing this. Not chump change. But all that he got from his colleagues when he brought this up was that sort of nod that means nothing's going to happen, right? Just that kind of nod with a pat on the back. Yeah, John, good idea. Keep bringing that up. You're onto something there. So finally got frustrated. One summer, took a different approach. Hired an intern. Intern's assignment was to go around to every factory owned by this company and to collect a sample of one kind of product that they knew lots of different factories were buying, and that was work gloves. Turns out they were buying 424 different kinds of work gloves. So the second part of the assignment, the intern was asked to trace back what was paid on average for each pair of those gloves. So each pair was tagged with a little price tag. So now they had this incredible collection of gloves. They come back to headquarters. They take over the executive boardroom one day. Stegner just comes in and dumps all the gloves on the boardroom table. Invites his colleagues in to see this glove shrine that he's created. Right? He says the reaction is virtually identical. They walk in the room, and first it takes them a moment just to take in what they're seeing. They say, John, we really buy this many different kinds of gloves. Yep, you got it. Eventually they notice the same looking pair of gloves, well, it costs $9.20 in Oklahoma, $14.80 in Ohio. John, we really pay radically different prices for the same pair of gloves. Yep, you got it. He said that they would walk out of the room shaking their head going, this is nuts. John, we got to get this fixed. Within a matter of months, he has permission to do centralized purchasing. Now, think about the absurdity of this story. This is a guy who had a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. There was a cell in it that said $1 billion. And his colleagues were, no thanks, John. He dumps a bunch of gloves on a table one day, and all of a sudden they're fired up to move. What gives? So what I want to challenge all of you to do, there's lots of organizational change being talked about. Changes to partnerships, changes to relationships, structural changes. If you're fighting for something and you don't have a slam dunk, if you don't have the consensus already built in and you got to create that consensus, my challenge to you is, what are you going to show your colleagues? Not what data, not what PowerPoint, what are you going to show them? Is it a visit to a certain site? Is it a video of a partner, of a patient, of a doctor? What can you show them to get them to feel something about the situation the way you see it? Feeling is the engine, the fuel of change. A Nike manager named Amanda Tucker was a relatively new manager. In fact, she got her first batch of feedback reports about 6 months into role. She was astonished that she'd been rated poorly on communication. Now, the reason she was astonished is that from the get-go, she had made it a priority to have an open-door policy. She made a big deal about it. People could come see her anytime. She put her work aside and talked to them. And so she was puzzled. Why was I rated poorly on communication? So she investigates, and it doesn't take her long to get to the root of the problem. Here's what her office looked like. People would sit across from her there at the desk. Imagine they're in a conversation. Do you see anything that might distract Amanda Tucker as she talked to her employees? Yeah, what she realized about herself is, in retrospect, often with that monitor right there, you know, sometimes an email would come in, and it looked like an email that deserved her attention, so she'd take a minute to read it. Sometimes it looked like an email that needed her response, and so she'd just take a minute to type out a response. And she thought she was just being a good multitasker, right? But what did it look like to the person across from her? It looked like, you're not paying attention to me. So having discovered this, HR is already on red alert, right? They've got these horrible performance reports. Oh, Amanda Tucker, she is a bad communicator. I don't know if she's management material. What does Amanda Tucker do? Does she go to sensitivity training? Does she take a Myers-Briggs? No, she takes an afternoon, she rearranges her office. Creates a little seating area where now when people come to see her, she spins around in her chair. The monitor is completely out of her peripheral vision. She can't be distracted even if she wants to. Her next round of reports show her communication scores have soared. What changed her character? Nothing. She was the same person before and after. It's just that in this environment, Amanda Tucker is a poor communicator, and in this environment, Amanda Tucker is a great communicator. I think this may be one of the most optimistic things I'll say to you all evening. What looks like a people problem is often a situation problem, and it sure is a heck of a lot easier to change the situation than it is to change the person. Shaping the path, as we've seen, can make a jerk act like a saint. It can make a poor communicating manager start acting like a great communicating manager. And so my question to you is, have you shaped the path to have better partnerships? Have you tweaked the systems, the routines, the processes, the physical environment in a way that eases people towards the right way of behaving? I want to leave you with a thought from the California Tobacco Control Council. They work to fight smoking. And this is a message they often sent to smokers. It took you years to learn how to smoke. How come you thought you'd be able to quit the first time? Now, to me, the message there is this, that if you really want change, failure is part of the deal. To do something great, like take your first steps, it takes struggle. And I'll go a step beyond that. To do something great requires struggle. So if you're willing to take that on, if you're willing to accept that challenge, to struggle, and to make the adaptations that that's going to require of you, I'm here to tell you, great change is possible. It is possible. It happens every day. And I can't wait to see the kinds of changes that the people in this room are going to create. Thanks so much for letting me wrap up the day. Have a great time at Pat Benatar tonight. Thank you so much.